We're going to start in 1 minute. Just getting our... Welcome to Connect and Create. We have a very, very special guest here today. Oh, we have the train also. Mike and Jeff used to always say that our cousins used to always say that the train was our relatives. So maybe our relatives, our ancestors are coming to visit with us today as well. In full force. Can you hear the train? So, okay, great. The gods are with us. We are live on Facebook on the Connect and Create page as well. So, welcome to Connect and Create. We have the train with us today, and we have a very, very, very special guest. I'm going to let the train just keep going because it's very loud where I am. And as I mentioned earlier, some of our relatives say oftentimes that when the train comes, that they always feel like that's our ancestors, our relatives that are coming with us. So I'm thankful and grateful. All of our ancestors, all of our relatives are showing up with the train today. So who we have with us today as our special guest is we have none other than my sister, Alyssum. Alyssum Mensoff. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she has a lot to share with us today about her journey as a therapist, and that it began long before identifying herself as a therapist. Maybe even when she first set her feet on that path towards professional goals, caring for others and offering support is a part of the essence of who Alyssum is and what brings her meaning to life. So she has a great gratitude for having been able to find a career that both sustains her financially as well as gives her a sense of who she is on fulfilling her life's purpose on that path, something we're all oftentimes looking for, right? So Alyssum's formal education began in 2007 at the University of Hawaii, Hilo, beautiful place, where she earned her Bachelor of Psychology with a fine art minor. Alyssum completed her academic training in 2014, graduating from Sonoma State University with a master's in counseling. So Alyssum received her license to practice mental health therapy from the state of California in 2017 and set up a private practice in Petaluma, California as a practitioner. And she holds the belief that all people have the potential to achieve their goal as well as gain health and growth outcomes that they desire. Alyssum is offering caring for the self, a tool for personal well-being and professional success. And if there were any time in history that it would be really important to be caring for the self in order to have a great life, first of all, and to be able to have personal and professional success today and right now in this time in history would be that time. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Alyssum, my sweet sister, to the floor. Hello, Alyssum. Thank you so much for being here on Connect and Create.
Thank you, Karina. It's really an honor to come and share this space with you. I really enjoyed coming on a couple other Connect and Create forums and witnessing and experiencing what other people had to share. And so I'm really glad to be able to share something as well. And also appreciating that this is a growth edge for me. So I usually work one-on-one with people and I'm very comfortable in that space. And then I've done some public speaking or some, when I was younger, some acting, but I want to be able to work on this. So this is a first try for me. So I'm glad to have this warm and supportive environment to kind of try out my what I can offer to people in this kind of a forum. So thank you. And I always say to my clients, to be gentle with themselves, and you'll hear me say that a lot during this. It's really it comes in so many places in how I practice therapy. So this is an opportunity where I'm going to get to practice what I preach and be gentle with myself and model that for people, because I do really think it's so essential. So and thank you for the intro, and talking a little bit about my kind of like the official points of my background. I think it would probably be good to give a little fuller of what I do and what the business that my profession, my practice. So as you let everybody know, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And that's kind of a classic term. It really means that we serve all sorts of people. We think of it as a relationship counselor, and you can have a relationship with the world and you can have a relationship with yourself. But we stick with that name. It's kind of our classic name for our license. And I'm licensed in California. So I have kind of two branches to my practice. One is the counseling, which is more formal, traditional in the approach. There's kind of very structured way that we're allowed to provide services. So that kind of dictates what that looks like. It's like formal mental health therapy. My specialties are grief and loss, as well as anxiety and depression, and helping people with self-esteem. And so that's one side. That's kind of the more formal face. And then I am also a coach. So that side has a different flavor to it. Less focusing on symptom reduction and more focusing on helping people kind of move forward and accomplish goals, find kind of meaning, and make steps on that path of figuring out their own life purpose. So that's less about reducing symptoms and more kind of forward moving. And I wanted to share a little bit about one of the techniques that I use, and it crosses over for me. It's something that's very dear to my heart. So I figured that would be a good thing to share with people. I do it in both, I use it in both counseling and in coaching. It's called Life Wheel, and it was created by Philip Jones, who's my mentor. And it's based on Jungian personality theory, and it's like it's akin to Myers-Briggs, the MBTI, but it definitely has its own way of interpreting Carl Jung's personality theory. And it's something that I feel passionate about sharing with other people, because it's been really helpful in my own life, from a holistic perspective, understanding the essence of what I came into the world with, of the strengths that I bring with me that are kind of inherent in my personality, as well as being able to understand the areas where I have challenges. And one of the reasons why I find this model very just useful is because it has a way of supporting people in looking at not just their challenges from a place of weakness, but also a place of how to build and how to grow. And to me, that's just essential. That's what really brings people to understanding themselves and where they're going in this world. So that's a core piece of the work that I do. I consider myself an existential humanistic therapist. So I use a lot of different techniques, but that's what I would consider my foundation. And I find that they work very well with Life Wheel, that there's a lot of focus on healing through making meaning in life, focusing on the here and now, there's with the existential piece, it's definitely very forward moving. We can look at the past as a place to gain insight, but we're really moving forward in kind of growing our lives. And then the humanistic is it's really allows me to create these authentic, caring relationships with my clients. It's the core of the orientation, and so many people need that. Um, there's room for that. Especially some people just haven't had that shown to them, how somebody can really see the best in them and help them see it in themselves. So and then with both of these orientations, authenticity is a big piece. And I honestly don't know how I would be a therapist if I had to try to be something else. So to me, it makes it being able to sit in the room with people and be my authentic self. I I believe that that is it's what will help people heal when they can do that for themselves, find and love their authentic self. I'm receiving while I'm giving, if I can be my authentic self in the room. Um, so let's see. So that's quite a bit about my orientation. I think I would like to move into talking a little bit more about the care of the self. Um, I do feel like that is a foundation of the what I'm trying to guide people to and help people understand for themselves, both for symptom management and then also that piece of being able to really deeply listen to what is inside of you, to be able to figure out what will bring you meaning in your life, and possibly what you, if to be able to identify your purpose in life. I've found that caring for the self is a way to return to the self, to really honor the self. And so to be able to maintain that connection on a day-to-day basis, that's where you're going to be able to listen to who you are and to be able to move that into how you live your life. Um, Also, then as an entrepreneur, it's absolutely crucial. Like I don't believe I would be where I am today if it was not for really being able to focus on listening to what my needs are, and being able sometimes to shift and change things. I've definitely had to shift a lot of behavior patterns in order to feel like I can sustain. Um, so it's, as you can see, it's something that I'm using myself on a like day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis. So I'm teaching it to people, and it's something that I have a lot of faith in for myself. Um,
Self-care.
Self-care, yeah,
Okay.
self-care. I'll take a moment to just talk about what is self-care. I know it's gotten quite a bit more buzz in kind of like popular media, this idea of self-care, what it is, what it isn't. Um, and I do think that where I want to fill in the gaps, because we get a lot of people will post something, self-care Sunday or, self-care spa day. And sure, self-care can be like, brunch with your friends. Self-care can be going to the spa, that sort of a thing, which is afforded to some people's lives, and that's wonderful. But it really is to really be having a full experience of self-care. It's looking at the self through the lens of what your needs are mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and it's so sometimes that might be a massage, and that's kind of like more of our class, or how people talk about self-care. But also sometimes it's balancing your budget so that you don't have a lot of stress in your life later. This idea of reducing um, that buzz, that noise that's not necessary, that outside, that external noise, to find peace and balance in yourself. So it can feel for some, when I talk to my clients about this goal for self-care, it sometimes it seems overwhelming. It can feel like a moving target. Like, how do I figure out what I need on like throughout the day? How do I ask myself that question? And I always come back to that it's got to be a journey, and it needs to be flexible. I do really think that these times that we're in are bringing that point right up to the surface. That what might have been self-care before COVID-19, it's different now. Our options might be different of what we can seek for self-care, how we take care of ourselves. If you're in an area with a shelter in place, you most likely can't go to the gym, or you can't meet with friends. You may not even be able to enjoy the recreational outdoor spaces. And for a lot of people, um, there's an adjustment period to figuring out what can I do. It's definitely comes to the forefront when we're in a situation like we're in with COVID-19. But it just in day-to-day life things change, and being prepared to have a flexible idea of what self-care looks like uh, as your life changes, as you change, as your circumstances change. That it can feel like a moving target, but it also can feel like a journey that is like a beautiful self-discovery. Really, that process of staying in touch with yourself, asking, "What do I need?" Um, so I want to also be careful to how I frame that idea of asking that question. I think it can be pretty complex. Um,
All
Sometimes
right.
the driven people um, have a hard time um, really slowing down and focusing on themselves. So it 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 can be tough for people to ask that question and create the quiet in their life to be able to hear the answer. Um, Another thing that comes up with people who are trying to ask that question, what do I need, is sometimes people have to challenge the idea that they actually do deserve to be nurtured. They may have a voice inside of them that when they try to nurture themselves, it tells them that they're being selfish. So that's something that is definitely, it can create a hurdle. It's not just a one track process, and I don't want to frame it that way, like we just sit down and pour through our look at ourselves through all our different dimensions, and then we come up with a clear answer. It's good to be prepared, and you may need support. There's definitely coaches and counselors who can help with that, but also just having a dialogue with friends, talking to people, friends and relatives about what they're doing and what challenges come up for them to help navigate through. Um, I do want to focus in because I know that part of Connect and Create, from my understanding, is helping to create a space for someone who may be an entrepreneur. And I know I mentioned earlier how I don't feel like I would be where I am today as an entrepreneur without that real focus on staying in touch with myself, especially as someone who's providing a service. Um, it's like an occupational hazard. It's burnout, right? And this started getting drilled into my head in grad school, as even before we started counseling anyone professionally. Um, this idea of, if you're going to give of yourself, you're going to need to refuel, and that it's not a nice idea anymore. It is actually essential for success, to really be engaged with that process. Um, I know for myself, I think about it as like, and I believe for someone who's providing a service like I do, of themselves, as well as someone who's an artist. You are the tool, you are the mechanism, and it's essential to care for that tool. Otherwise, you can't deliver the product. So whatever might be coming up, whatever other responsibilities, it becomes a thing that it has to no longer just be an option or a nice idea or something you might do on occasional Sunday. It really does need to be if, a part of your routine, is and really staying in touch, because again, circumstances will change. Your routine will need to be honed as you grow and as your career changes. Um, so I wanted to just actually read something. I was thinking last night before, I was really trying to tap into what this is for me, this idea of self-care and why it's important for me to come forward in this opportunity. Why is it that I want to share this? And really touching into why it's important to me. And this is kind of what's kind of flowed from me. Um, so I'll just go ahead and read that. I honor my gift and the source from which it flows by taking care of myself, since I am the conduit. Starting with my parents and relatives, then with teachers later, and then professional mentors, I've been supported on my path. People have believed in me, saw light in me before I saw it in myself. And knowing this helps motivate me to make sure I can sustain this path. Um, so I hope you can feel that for me, this idea of self-care, it runs really deep. And my hope for people is that through that process, that connection to the self, that there can be, uh, a ability to feel more joy in life, and have better health, better mental health. So yeah, this is what I'm offering. I thought just I might give a couple ideas of kind of general areas to focus on. Um, well, I do believe that it needs to be tailored to the self. I can't just give somebody a formula. I wish I could. I wish I could just look at somebody and say, this is what you need to do. Do these things and you will feel great. You will succeed. But that is just not the nature of this quest. But there are a few things that I do think go across, that generalize to different people. So I thought I might share a couple of those. And one of them I think is pacing. So when we ramp up our pace and it's frenetic, like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't give us the space to listen, and oftentimes it can impede our creativity, as well as our health, for the artists out there. So I recommend to people to build in margins, even if it's just 10 minutes, to be able to sit and take some deep breaths before you approach whatever is next for you. Is it, it it's creating that feeling of space in your day, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 3 minutes. So really looking at pacing, how you're setting up your day. The next one is connection. Feeling connected to like-minded others. And I thought I would share that one because this is Connect and Create. And I was thinking about, with, especially in these times, if you're in a place that's restricting social contact, it can really throw a monkey wrench in that feeling of connection. So it's like it's time to get creative. We really do need to connect as human beings. We're social creatures, and we do need to feel that connection to that otherness, that people are like us, and that maybe they don't see everything the same as us, but that they're experiencing something that we're experiencing in the world. So something like this, a forum like this, creates a great opportunity to still feel that. And I know I definitely felt that last week when I was listening to the people who were sharing. So I thought I would bring that. Let's see. I wrote a few things in. I think we just have, how much time do we have, Karina, left?
Oh, we have a total of 10 more minutes. So, if you want to share a little bit more, we can just leave a few minutes for question and answer.
Great.
And I, of course, have been thinking up some questions because I love everything you've been sharing, and
great.
You did a great job presenting your information as well.
Thank you. So another piece then that I would think that it goes across, you will need to adapt this to your own self. There's a lot of different ways to bring some sort of mindfulness of, like, thoughtfulness into your life, some sort of it can come through meditation, it can come through a mindfulness practice, it can come through something like yoga. Some people find it through, they find that space through exercise. To be able to drop out of that space in your brain where you are, it's thoughts and the wheel is turning, to be able to give your brain a rest. So when we drop into our senses, it creates that. And if you have a meditation practice, that's great. It does that. It's not for everyone, but mindfulness does give the brain the experience of, similar to meditation. So it could mean sitting with a cup of tea and, sitting on your steps and listening to the birds and really immersing your senses. It's going to bring some calm to your nervous system and give you, again, that quiet, that space. So especially with this kind of baseline emotionality, anxiety increase in the world, I feel like that both just generally in our lives, in order to create a nurturing of the self, but also especially right now, to be taking some time to drop out of that thought space, and into that other space. And then this one can be tough for people now, right, as well, like some form of staying moving, continuing to move. And I know definitely for myself, this has been a big area that I've had to shift. My options for what I used to use to keep my body moving, that felt like very nurturing to me, are just not an option right now. But I have to say, after an initial transition, I was able to find a yoga channel. And I'm actually seeing some other great benefits in my body. I haven't done this much yoga since before my son was born, about 20 years ago. I'm, now that I made it through the transition of kind of releasing that these other activities weren't going to be an option for me right now, I did find some way to keep moving. But it's just we need to move the blood, whatever that looks like for you. And that just generalizes, that's just humanness. So let's see. I think that is mainly what I brought. So if you're ready, we can move into questions.
Okay, great. Something just happened a little bit with your volume. It got a little. There we go.
Maybe I sit a little closer.
There you go. Okay, great. So we've got a few minutes left. If there's anyone that has any questions, this is a great time. Alyssum, I would personally like to just tell you that it's been really great listening to everything. For those of you that have joined partway through, Alyssum is my sister. And although I've been aware of what she's been up to with her degree, first in Hilo, Hawaii, and then in California, and that she's a practicing therapist and coach, that it's been really great to, we know conversationally, but I've never heard her formally speak. So this has been educational for me as well, and informative. I was curious about the wheel that you talked about in the beginning. I want to hear more about that. But let me see if we have any questions from our other guests or comments. Just either come off mute or raise your hand.
I have a comment. For some reason, I'm not showing up.
Do you know where the video part is on your?
I just got off another Zoom and it. Let's see.
There you go.
Hi guys. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. So I would just say a couple of things. It's fascinating to me that Alyssum's name actually literally means curing madness. Alyssum. And so there's a lot of madness in the world right now. We're all aware of that. And her approach, which is self-care, finding our essential nature, is really the ultimate solution in one sense to everything, because ultimately all of these madnesses that we're experiencing they're external to self. Because in self, however we define that, there is peace, there's joy, there's satisfaction, there's wholeness. So I'm just very inspired by her. The other thing about Alyssum that I think is really for the times we live in is that she's very down to earth and grounded, very relatable, and yet insightful. And I think that's an unusual combination. Sometimes people can be very relatable on an emotional level, And then sometimes people can be very, analytic, but she has a very nice combination. So I think her approach, the existential approach, the humanistic approach, is the perfect approach for the times we live in. And I enjoyed the presentation. It was great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Philip. Any other questions before we get to the wheel?
I just wanted to apologize. I thought it was at 12:45, and as soon as I got on, I really was drawn to what you were saying in your presence. And so I want to apologize, my loss. Self-care is a topic that I really obviously needed to be here. So are these recorded by chance?
Yes, it's recorded. And if everything is correct, we're also on Facebook Live on the Connect and Create Facebook page. So yeah, so it's recorded, and we're live right now on Facebook Connect and
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. Okay.
So Alyssum, Sandy is a part of a group that I'm a part of called Networking Savvy. And she's been sharing that I've been sharing about the Connect and Create. She's been sharing, she's excited. And Sandy, tell me again, I know that you do, tell me a little more about what you do. And you know what, my wrist clock is 5 minutes ahead. So we have a whole 15 more minutes that we can spend together. So Sandy, if you want to ask Alyssa some questions or share a little about who you are to, bring the whole presence together.
Sure. The wheel, whatever I missed about the wheel, super duper intriguing there. And as far as myself, I use creativity and energy work to help people access greater life force and move forward on their journey. So yeah, I have a little bit different background. I'm not going to get into all of that, but you're definitely somebody that my ears are listening to. I'm a conscious dance facilitator, and I have a bachelor's in art, and I kind of brought them all together through creativity coaching. So I use a lot of different modalities to help people live from that limitless place of joy within them. So yeah, I save the heavy duty, serious stuff. I like to refer those things out, and I love the word that came up on our networking call, plurking. I love play and work combined. So yeah, very, but very intrigued by hoping I can get to listen to the recording.
Great. Wonderful to meet you, Sandy. Thanks for joining us.
You as well. Thank you.
So Alyssum, you shared a lot about, and Sandy, thanks again for coming on. It's so great to see you. It's great to learn a little bit more about you too. And I love that you're related, to what Alyssum's doing in different but similar, crossover. So that's why we have Connect and Create. So let's see. Alyssum, also, if you have like any information you want to put in the chat, you're welcome to do that. Or if you want to, I can put it in for you if there's something.
I do. I'm not a huge multitasker.
You want to tell me and I'll type?
Okay, sure. Yes, it's info@alyssummensoff.com.
Is my email.
Oh, and your volume just came up again too. Info at Alyssum Mensoff. Yep.
.com.
Okay.
And then, well, I guess I should have started with my website. It's www.alyssummensoff.com. So that's the way to find me. I'm also on Instagram. It's at Alyssum Mensoff LMFT, and I just share kind of positive, uplifting quotes and photos from there. And when I do write articles, I let people know through there. So I have a blog on my website. I did recently write something for just to help support people with this idea of how to care for the self during a situation like we're facing right now. It was at the beginning of the shelter in place in my area, so it's focused on that. However, it's definitely it's applicable to all the different phases and really just daily life, giving some real kind of clear direction for areas to focus, with a lot of room for personal interpretation.
How do we find your blog, Alyssum?
So it's on my website. So
Okay.
just my web address and then /blog.
Okay, great. Okay, great. And so I put all that in the chat too, if that's helpful for you, Sandy. Okay, great. Awesome. So we have a few more minutes. Look, see, that's why you set your hand watch 5 minutes ahead, so that you have this altered reality for me, right? Being on time has been an effort in life. So we have a whole 10 minutes. Anything special you want to share? I was intrigued, I'll ask you the question straightforward. How do you feel about working with people as a coach versus working with people as like a counselor or a therapist? What's the difference for you in how you go about working with people?
Great question. And it's something that I have to sort through professionally on a regular basis. There's actually a fair amount of ethics involved in how I make that distinction. And it lines right up with what Sandy was saying with the referring, right? I would be somebody that Sandy might refer to if somebody was experiencing some symptoms that they needed to kind of work through, or maybe some past trauma. So that's the place that I work. So people come to me when they're things just aren't quite going right in their life. They want things to be different. Their symptoms are interfering in their ability to live their lives. So that's me as a counselor. And again, I'm state certified. There's a lot of rules and how we're allowed to interact with people, which I personally do respect and I'm happy to follow. The idea is that it's creating a very safe container for people to come and bring their most vulnerable parts of themselves. I unfortunately, there are people in the world that do exploit people in that space. So this is a protection for them. And so I'm happy to follow those much more strict rules of how I interact with them. I'm not allowed to socialize with them unless I can figure out a way to do it that's therapeutic and very limited and in line with the standard of care, I should say. But so there's this structure around being a counselor. And it's coming from a different place of people who are coming have a different set of needs. So I can move somebody from, let's see, from coaching to counseling, but not the other direction. If somebody comes to me as a counseling client, they remain a counseling client. If they need to coach, I refer them out. I mean, I can do coaching from that space, but I can't have that type of relationship. Then as a coach, it's a different focus. To start with, people are coming with, they're wanting to build on what they have. They've got a level of stability that they can build on. So that's that seeking those, once you've got the base stabilized, then you can seek those other types of pursuits, like identifying your life purpose. Now, I mean, it's not quite that cut and dry, because sometimes finding your life purpose or starting on that path, or definitely making meaning, is healing for symptoms. But ultimately, people who are coming to me for coaching are not coming to me for symptom relief. They're coming for that forward moving. They are basically managing to function in their life at a certain level, and they're hoping to add. So yes, that's, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Can I speak into that as well?
Yeah.
I love so much and respect so fully. I come from a really bad traumatic childhood. And so I was introduced to coaching, it was an outpouring of my professional therapy. And the person that started me on my journey is no longer living, but I have such an enormous respect for that line, because I tend to attract people to me that may have trauma backgrounds, or maybe like my father was bipolar. and I'm the lesser, like they've called it bipolar 2 now, where I don't go into psychosis or any crazy stuff like that, but I can be manic, or I can be, but there's such a fine line. And that's a question that I ask anyone that I work with is, you know, do you have a background in trauma? Because I've seen people, and I've experienced myself doing some energy modalities that if people are not trained professionally, they can drop, you can drop into a post-traumatic stress disorder state. And if you are at a stage in your own journey where you don't know how to get ground under that, I mean, I just have such a respect for that line. So I totally, I love that. I want to learn more about you, because definitely I'm looking for people to refer things out to. So yeah, yay for you. And I always, you know, people in the healing world, it's kind of scary out there. I mean, there's a lot of scary stuff out there. So I try to guide people, like, you need to see a licensed counselor. I mean, there's a huge difference. So I just really want to speak into that.
Wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate that as well. I know I want to help people explore safely, right? So I want to feel safe, and the healing world, there's a lot of energy out there, and kind of creating the right container for that energy, I think, is the way to keep people safe.
Yes, and it took me a long time to build a safe container for myself, and so I cherish it, because no true life can be built without stability.
Great.
Great. You know, one thing, thank you so much, Sandy, and thanks, you make this dialogue even more rich. And Philip, thank you for your comments as well. And I thought of one more thing that I was curious about. I was noticing your undergraduate, in your undergraduate at Hilo, you had, you know, counseling and therapy that you were studying, but you were also studying art. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how art comes into play, either for you in your own life, or maybe with your clients or patients. I'm not sure which one. Do you call them clients or patients?
I see clients.
Clients. Okay, great.
Yeah. So yes, so this is very relevant, Karina, because I do really feel like that art minor got me through that academic space. It created a balance for me.
Mm-hmm.
I picked the psychology slide, but I do consider myself an artist. So I was able to honor that part of myself. I remember just being in the pottery studio with my hands in clay and just being like, it was like a huge sigh of relief to be able to just change the focus. And that was self-care for me. That was a way to nurture myself through, you know, seeking academic parts of a career can be grueling. So I've really used art. It's sometimes it does come into my the way I practice therapy. You know, I some of my internships, I might have learned techniques and certain people really benefit from that. Definitely with the children I see. Working with, I've got a nice big basket that we bring out, and for my littles, that's the way they don't just sit down and talk. You know, they need to draw it out, paint it out, and I get so much insight from being able to witness them and nurture them. Part of the work that I do with children is very much it's reflective play therapy. So it's been kind of formulated to help kind of like nurture that their self-esteem, and to be able to do that around art is really, really beautiful. And so that's, let's see, that's how it kind of comes into my therapy, but really for me, it's my self-care. When I do, I need to be able to create, it's part of who I am. So I do make space for that in my life. It comes in different ways. I work with textiles. I don't know if you can see my shirt, but this is something I dyed. You know, it's something that in the last few years, that's been my outlet, is textile design and dyeing. And it kind of always has been in there in some fashion. So yeah, for me, it's like right into, that's how I nurture myself, is I create space to be creative.
You know, I realize I'm in my thank you, Alyssa. I'm in my studio and I realize I think I have a ceramic piece that I keep my paintbrushes in that was a vase. You want me to do a quick show and tell?
Sure.
All right, hold on a second. Let me hold. I'm just going to turn this off so I don't see me standing up. Yep. As you were talking about it, I was like, I have a piece in my studio. Was this when you were in grad school?
No, this is during my undergrad. Yeah.
I mean undergrad. Sorry, undergrad. But this is what you're talking about when you're talking about pinching?
But my hands in the clay, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah,
I
wonderful.
always love the details. Anyway, I keep my paintbrushes in it in my painting studio.
Wonderful.
So
And
there's
now
an
you
example. I like how it was just, you know, glazed a little bit and gentle little touches. So there you go. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. That was a fun little show and tell. So thank you, everyone, for being here on Connect and Create. We look forward to future speakers. We have a number of people lined up in the near future. And it's so great to see you, Alyssum. And Sandy, thank you for joining. And Philip, wonderful to have you here. And everyone that's been joining us on our Facebook Live or is listening to this recording anywhere around the world, so great to be with you. Thank you so much. And Alyssum, I'd like to give you the last word. Anything that you'd like to leave people with?
Sure. You know, I think that for me, I want to bring that focus back in, that when I thought about what will my last word be, it's be gentle with yourself. That's my last word.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Thanks everyone for being here. Keep a lookout for future Connect and Creates. And thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
Bye for now.